important to understand why you should take your career choice seriously. In this video, we will help you understand the importance of making the right career choice for yourself. So, why is your career choice so important? It is important because it determines a lot of things in your life, including number 1, quality of life. Your career choice plays a huge role in deciding where you live, how flexible your life is, and the kinds of things you are able to do in your free time. Number 2, identity. Ask any elder person about their career and they will tell you about it as a part of their identity. They'll say something like, I am a journalist, instead of, I report news. Notice how everybody asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And not, what do you want to do when you grow up? This shows that your career choice shapes your identity. Number 3, impact. Every human life touches thousands of other lives in so many different ways. If you select any 60-year-old person who is about to retire, take a time machine, find him as an infant, throw that infant into trash, and then come back to the present day, you'll find that a countless number of things around you have changed. So whatever career you choose, the world will be affected by it. Anything that determines your quality of life, your identity, and the impact that you make should be taken very seriously. And that includes your career choice also. So we hope that this short video could help you understand the importance of making the right career choice. Having done that, we will now move forward to start our career counseling course. We are pretty excited and we hope you are too. So let's begin. See you.
Hello everyone, welcome to day 77 of ProBano's live podcast. सबको स्वागत है. Welcome to all the audience members. Thank you for coming in. And of course Mr. Sen, Aditya आज हमारे साथ है नहीं, but I'm sure he's watching and he'll be having a lot of questions for our guest today. And of course, firstly welcome to Sharan Mirchandani, who is our guest today. Sharan is a doctor. So first of all, Sharan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us and welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So guys, मैं शरण जी को introduce कर देता हूँ. Sharan Mirchandani graduated with an MBBS degree last year from KMC Manipal, and he is soon to start his 3-year pediatrics training in New York in a few weeks. He grew up in Dubai with a fondness for biology, and he believes that the human body has always fascinated him, which is why he eventually decided to take up medicine. Apart from academics, Sharan was actively involved in dramatics in college and has been a part of numerous fests and competitions. He is also a huge movie buff, which we'll be getting into that, and loves acting and mimicry. He believes that while it absolutely makes sense to follow one's passion, one should always make an informed decision when it comes to your career. So firstly, again, Sharan, I want to invite you again to our podcast. Thank you for coming. Welcome. और मेरे introduction के अलावा, if you can introduce yourself in your own words and address our audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samant, and thank you, ProBano, for having me. I think you almost covered everything. I was born, brought up in Dubai, did my schooling here, did my MBBS at KMC Manipal, graduated last year, and in 10 days. I somewhat covered everything. Huge movie buff, got like hobbies included dramatics in college, huge foodie, been like doing a lot of cooking at home in the last few months. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, excited to kind of start this new chapter, and again grateful to ProBano for having me.
Great, thank you so much, Sharan. Sharan, I think there's a little bit of network problem. If you could please quick that in real quick. Uh, so first of all, you are a doctor. You just completed your MBBS, and of course you're going to New York for further studies. Now,
Yeah.
of course, I did talk about how you're fascinated by the human body. But then, could you talk about your journey as to what is that one moment, probably, that one situation that inspired you or made you, okay, the human body is amazing. I have to get into this field. I want to make this my entire life. How did that happen? When did you make that decision?
So to be very honest, like I had said in the video I sent over, there was no specific example wherein I was like, yes, I want to be a doctor, make a doctor, banana, anything. It was more of a fascination with biology, and the more I read, it sort of slowly built up that, we were learning about different organ systems and how each organ system works in harmony as one cohesive unit. So I think that overall, it wasn't like a specific instance. It was more of like small instances in school that piled up to later be like, you know what, I want to be a doctor and I want to get into this field. But the thing is, I did not have a lot of awareness and exposure related, like as in the sense that I didn't know what it was, there was going to be so much or it was going to be so long and stuff. But yeah, there's that basic fascination with biology and the body inspired me to like get into medicine. It's just that as I got into medicine, over the years, the fascination actually built up even more. I wish I could say that from the beginning in school, I was like completely like, yes, yes, yes. It was something that was exciting and something that I definitely wanted to do. But as I went through the years, as I got exposed to the field and as I learned more about the body, that kind of kept inspiring me along the way.
Great. And also, we talked about your interest during college times. Mostly, is your you were in the dramatics club. I think you were
Yeah.
into dramatics, and you are a
Yes.
movie buff, and you're also into acting and mimicry. So
Yes.
for just a second to keep aside a doctor or the medical field, could you talk more about your hobbies outside of being a doctor, and how do you
Oh,
follow that? How
definitely.
do you
Yeah.
pursue them, and what's your take on them?
So the thing is, when I was in high school, when I was doing my schooling here, I never really got the opportunity or the platform to do these sorts of things. Like public speaking was always something I liked, debating, extempores, and that sort of stuff. But when I went to Manipal, we had like there was this club, basically this body, student body that included students from all over Manipal, different colleges. It was called Ramanan. So they had auditions, and I was like, you know what, let me just check it out. Who knows? And that just became something. I realized that, like, and I got selected in the auditions. I made it to the final round. I couldn't audition for the final play because of my exams. That was a constant problem in MBBS. So I just realized this is something I like. And then as the years went by, we had a lot of different fests in Manipal, and we had a lot of different inter-batch competitions, including stage plays, mad ads. And like a lot of college students know what these are. Like mad ads is like they give you a topic 1 hour in advance, a product, and you have to market it in a really quirky, funny way. And you have only 1 hour to prepare, so it's all very impromptu and it's all improvising. So that was something that really kind of just kept happening as I went through the years. I was like, you know what, I like this, I like this, I like this, and took part in these fests. Had a lot of fun with it and just kept continuing it. Yeah. So that just kind of built up.
Now, of course, one thing that we did talk is that I did mention is you're into mimicry.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
Aditya, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, मतलब कुछ हुआ नहीं है उसको, बस he couldn't be part of the
Okay.
podcast
Thank
today.
you. Good.
But he does mimicry. I mean, better than
Oh,
me,
that's awesome.
definitely. And I wouldn't call a professional, but he does pretty good impersonation of Nana Patekar.
Ah,
आगे मेरे
nice.
मौत का तमाशा देखने. So,
Nice.
before I hand it over to Mr. Sen, and of course his wide range of beautiful questions, could you give us a very short performance, if it's not too much to ask?
No, definitely. In fact, the thing is, in quarantine, what I've been doing at home was on my Instagram page, I started uploading like a few videos of impersonations because I'm like, might as well do it. So one thing I've been doing for a while now is probably there's a Shah Rukh Khan's a few dialogues of Shah Rukh Khan from Chak De India and then Dawn as well. So it's kind of like I'll just do that and then another one. So Shah Rukh Khan basically goes like 70 मिनट 70 मिनट है तुम्हारे पास क्योंकि ये 70 मिनट तुमसे खुदा भी नहीं छीन सकता. And the Dawn ka dialogue and he was like, I am the king. And then that laugh. So that is one thing. And one more thing I do is been doing for a while is Hrithik Roshan from Koi Mil Gaya. So that kind of goes like, and if you remember that character, he goes like, okay, so he goes like, हाइला इधर बहुत बुरी है मुझे कोई पसंद नहीं करता. जादू की शक्ति धूप से आती है. So that is one thing that is fun doing. Yeah, so those are like a few sort of that I've caught on.
Yeah, firstly, I want to have a clap क्योंकि मैं तो नहीं कर सकता. So anyone doing something that I can't do, I just give a clap.
Thank you so much.
With that being said, I want to hand it over to Mr. Sen. Mr. Sen, over to you.
Thank you, Samant.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
Samant.
Welcome to the show, Sharan. And I think we're going
Thank you so much.
have a rollicking time. Now,
Definitely.
starting off with your Shah Rukh Khan and Hrithik Roshan's sort of voiceovers.
Yeah.
So when did you realize that you could do this?
So honestly, I don't really remember. The Hrithik Roshan thing started initially. It was I just started with the Koi Mil Gaya Hrithik Roshan, and I just kept doing it for my friends, and people are like, okay, wow, like this is good. And then later on, what happened was in college, I'm not saying like I never used to mimic teachers. It was just like professors had a certain trademark dialogue or a line. And so with my friends, it was like, oh, you know what, this professor says this, and they were like, oh wow, this is good, so that was part of like, when you're talking to your friends, you just like certain teachers had this. And when I was standing for class representative in my batch in the first semester, I actually did an impression of a professor, and fit it into my campaigning speech, and that was really like fun. So people really like that. So it just kept happening. I just kept trying voices. And the first time in third year, I participated on stage, represented my batch in this fest, did a few different voices. The Joker from Batman, Rahul Gandhi, a lot of different people. So it's just something that just kept happening as it went, So that's all.
I'm sure you won that election.
Oh yeah, I did. Mr. Sen's, yeah.
Yeah, I think Mr. Sen usually when he has a power cut, he just disappears for half a minute.
Oh right. Okay.
In the meantime,
Yeah.
I do have
No
one
worries.
question to ask you. Going back
Yeah,
to medical,
definitely.
going back to that field,
Yeah.
is
No,
of
of course.
course I kept talking about how you were fascinated by the human body, the biology
Yes.
of humans. Now, before you were, of course, you're not an old person जो कि 20 साल पहले graduate हो गए थे, and now you're a veteran in the field, but you're from our generation who's just graduated. So of course you're in with the latest of what's going down in the field.
Yes. Yes.
So now, before you started off with your MBBS, what was your expectation and what was your view of the medical field? And being in the medical field for quite a while during your MBBS and for this long, how has your view changed? And what is that, I don't know, groundbreaking reality check or something that you face being in this field?
Okay, Mr. Sen's back, so I'll answer that and then we can. Okay. So okay. So honestly, the thing is, initially I knew it was a long path. I knew MBBS was 5.5 years, and after that, your MD or specialization would take 3 to 6 years, depending on whether you want to super specialize. But the thing is, I didn't realize that it would be so long, in the sense that the thing is, MBBS is 5.5 years, but if you're applying to the US like me, we actually kind of took a few gaps in our final year, in our intern year, to do some internships and clinical rotations in the US, which we needed to add to our CV and what we needed to apply to the US for for specialization. So that in fact added a year or two, so it takes even longer. And also if you're preparing for the All India entrance exam, your NEET after MBBS, It's a very tough exam. It's a crazy exam, and especially during your internship, it's very difficult to prepare for it while you're doing your clinical duty. So another year or two gets added onto that, and ultimately, before you start your postgrad, it goes up to maybe 7 years, 6.5 years before you start your specialization, and then it's another 3 years. And if you want to do a fellowship, which nowadays a lot of people are doing, it adds another 3 years. So that is something I realized when I like as I went through the journey, in the sense that the application was even longer. And I think one common misconception a lot of people have, especially in school, is that okay, like Dr. Bano, खूब पैसे कमाओगे. It's like you become like, you know what, like you learn well. But honestly, I feel that is not necessarily true, because a lot of doctors probably are not paid as much as they should be because of the sheer amount of work and effort that they put in. It is a sad reality, and a lot of people told me that if you're doing it for the money, don't do it. I never did it for the money, because it was just like, you know what, okay, I will earn and stuff like that, but that's not the most important. So I just wish that the groundbreaking reality, honestly, the harsh reality that I faced in the field was how long it was, and in the sense that how your work-life balance really gets affected to such an extent. It depends on the field you're in as well. But we had obviously we had lectures and classes 6 days a week. Then even in our internship, we sometimes had to go all 7 days. And when you're doing your residency, when you're doing your MD or MS, especially in India, it's crazy. Your hours, like I have a lot of friends who are doing it right now in India, and they're going to work every single day, not even Sundays. 7 days a week. And if you want to take leave, they've got to take it out of their allotted 21 days a year. They're sleeping for 1 or 2 hours every night. It's crazy. So that's one thing I didn't realize, how badly your work life gets affected. Your work life balance sort of gets affected. By the time you come home, it's 7, 8 p.m. You just eat dinner and you have to go to sleep. So that's something I think that really sort of opened my eyes up to this fact.
And I think it also shows the amount of effort doctors put in. Not just doctors. I don't want to just limit it to doctors.
Exactly.
But then the nurses, the support staff,
Oh,
everybody.
definitely.
And
Like,
it's important
yeah.
to shed light on them as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And honestly, sorry, just one more thing I want to bring up is, I just feel that a lot of the time, I think in the US, like one thing I've really noticed and appreciated is that nurses are valued as they should be. But in India, we still need to work on that, because, they do so much. Like, in fact, like I used to have problems with procedures, and I used to ask them for help, and they used to happily come and help me. And another problem in India that a lot of my friends have faced, being females, they were often mistaken for nurses. They used to come and be like, "Where's the doctor?" And it was frustrating, because these were also these were doctors. They were in white coats and everything like that. And it's just that awareness needs to kind of be raised, especially with regards to nurses, because they do so much.
Great. And with that, since Mr. Sin is back, my question
Yes,
is done,
sorry,
and I
Mr.
hand it
Sen.
over to Mr. Sin. Back to you.
Yes.
Hi, Sharan. Okay, back again.
Yes.
that was power going and coming, and I'm sure
Right,
it
right.
was all someone's fault, somehow or the other. Okay, but where were we? We were saying, okay, so you mimicked your teacher, which went.
In the sense that the dialogue, sorry, I just said a dialogue in that style. It wasn't meant to be
So
offensive
I'm,
or
I'm,
anything. It was
I'm going
just,
to build on that. I'm going to build on
yeah,
that.
okay.
So what subject or which discipline was this teacher from?
Physiology.
Physiology. Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting. So he was talking about all bones and marrows and all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So what was the dialogue that was a hit?
Okay.
And how
so
did
the
you
thing-
do it?
So the thing is, he used to have a dialogue. 1 second.
And in the
So this
meantime,
was like a lot of years ago.
if any of Sharan's friends who are here from Manipal, if you can bring that teacher here, I think that'll be perfect then.
Oh no, that actually I already got into a little trouble with him, because I got him for my first exam viva. And so it was like karma that happened. And I got him for my viva. It went on for 45 minutes. He was very strict, but a very good teacher, brilliant guy. So I think the dialogue was, when people used to have doubts in class and raise their hands, he used to look at one person and just be like, yeah, friend, I saw him first, I'll come to you later. So he used to address one person's doubt first and then move on to the next person. So that was one dialogue that he said. So in a sense, when I was standing for class rep, I'm like, I hope you guys vote for me. It shouldn't be a situation where you tell me that, sorry, I saw him first, I'll vote for you later. So I did that and it kind of fit in. So that was one thing, yeah.
That and I'm sure the person in question was not very happy with it. And I'm quite sure you
He
won that
wasn't there.
election, did you?
I did,
I see.
but
I
he
knew
wasn't
that.
there. He wasn't around, so it's fine. But
But he did get the feedback later, or what?
he didn't. No, the thing is, I actually got not into a little trouble like with him. So because before that speech, we were campaigning for class rep, and some of my friends actually put up a poster of me on as the desktop wallpaper on the projector. Vote for Sharan 20, like whatever. And then he came into class, and when he turned on the computer, my face pops up on the projector screen.
Okay.
It was crazy. And then he's just like, "Who's this? Stand up." Then I stood up, and then he's just like, "You have to take permission from the IT people before you put up stuff." So I was like, "Sorry, sir." And then I got in for my Viva. So in a way, it was okay. Like,
But these are memories that you're going to.
these are memories, exactly. And even at my farewell, one of my batchmates, in fact, did impressions of different professors, and some of them were in the audience, and they loved it. That because they were very sporting, and it was never meant to be offensive. It was sort of like, we're just going to do a dialogue, which is trademark, which is this professor's trademark. So yeah, they were all very nice about it.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So yeah, you were talking about getting on to be a specialized and super specialty or subspecialty. It's anything between 12 to 14, 15 years you need to spend in training.
At least 10, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're
10 to
lucky
12
over
easily.
here that your MBBS and internship finishes in 5.5 years. If you were in the US or Canada, that's 8 years.
Exactly.
And then you have the plus.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what specialty you're going in for?
I'm going
And
to
why?
pediatrics.
And why?
Okay, so why is actually I've been asked this question a lot, of course, over the last few months during my interviews in the US, but that had to be a more professional, formal answer. Why did I get into pediatrics? It was just because it was a passion of mine. It was always great dealing with kids. It brought a certain sense of satisfaction and joy to me because I always loved, like interacting with children, treating them, kind of checking in on them, taking care of them. So that was just something I realized when I was in medical school during my pediatrics rotation. I would have these amazing patients who would like make such a mark. So I think that really clicked that, what, pediatrics. A lot of people say that pediatrics is not the highest paying. It's not like crazy low, but it's not the highest paying. So people just go like, why? And I'm like, it doesn't matter that much, like it's something that you love doing because that's the only thing that matters when you're going to do this all your life.
Yeah, and pediatrics could be demanding because your on-call can get a bit demanding.
Yeah.
Could you explain on-call for all the people over here?
On-call is basically like when you are on duty for a certain day, you have a 24-hour shift and they can call you at any time of the day. Like I had that back when I was doing my rural postings, like at 2 a.m, I got a call from the nurse saying there's a patient. 4 a.m, call saying there's a patient, So, and pediatrics, of course, is even tougher because the thing is parents, they obviously put their kids first. Parents are amazingly noble that way. Like if their child has a fever for an hour, they immediately panic and rush them to the emergency department. Whereas if they have it themselves, they just, okay, you know what, I'll wait for a day, I'll take something. But with their kids, they immediately rush. So even if it's a small issue, they rush at any time. So we do get a lot more cases at very random hours.
And I'm sure you must have got cases where the kid is crying and the father and the mother don't know why they're crying. And it's come to a doctor and says, my kid is crying.
Always.
So what did you do then?
Yeah. So we kind of just try to figure out if he had any other problems, if he had a fever, if he had problems eating, sleeping, stuff like that. And but somewhat they would, most of the time they would know, but sometimes they would just come and say, my kid had fever yesterday. And then we'd be like, then I would say like, what about now? And they'd be like, no. So I would just say, okay, you know what, check him out. I would examine him and everything and just be like, everything's fine now. In case you have anything, call me. So it is difficult because obviously children, the communication gap, because children themselves can't really tell you what the problem is. An adult would be like, okay, I have chest pain, but a kid, they'll cry. And their parents also would not really, like you said, know what's happening. So that way it's even more challenging figuring out what the issue is.
Yeah. And with a kid, I don't think you can give a placebo and work, right?
Definitely not.
You need to tell the audience what is a placebo. Cannot.
So placebo is usually something that you just pass off as medication, and it's usually just a sugar pill or a plain syrup with a non-medicated item that passes off as medication, but it sometimes has an effect on people because sometimes if it's psychological, if you tell a patient who comes with an issue that you're giving them a tablet for the problem because you suspect it's psychological and they may not need medication, you give them like a normal, you give them a tablet, like a sugar pill, you give them a tablet which doesn't really have anything in it, and you say, okay, you know what, take this, you'll be fine. So that way it has an effect on them psychologically, and then they feel better. So that's a placebo.
Right. Now on that subject, we know that with COVID-19, doctors around the world, they have tried placebos, they have tried drugs, they have tried so many different things. So what's your experience with all of this?
So personally, I haven't really firsthand seen the situation or the ground reality. I'm going to see that in a few weeks. So honestly, there's just so much news flying around, especially initially, and with news, I mean, I'm sure WhatsApp groups. There's a lot of fake news spreading, a lot of stuff on a lot of WhatsApp groups that people are sending and saying, you know what, this cures COVID, this is good for COVID. And, like, the thing is, having reliable information is really, really important because there's so many trials. There was an antiviral that was tried. There was hydroxychloroquine, which was tried, but then some people said it can cause, like, there were studies saying it can cause heart issues. But, there are so many conflicting studies. Initially, the WHO said don't wear a mask, but now everyone has to because they've obviously, like, you can prevent transmission. So, there are so many conflicting things that are going around, and it being a viral disease, the challenge was with viral diseases, there's no specific treatment unless it's your influenza or whatever, where you have a certain medication that helps, or you have measles, mumps, rubella, you have a vaccine to prevent it. But when you have a viral fever, when you have a viral illness, the treatment is you give them Panadol or Crocin or Dolo for the fever, and then you keep hydrating them and make sure they get enough rest and supportive treatment. There's no, like, bacterial infections and fungal infections, you have antibiotics and other medicines. But with COVID, I think the challenge is that it's a spread so fast that it just is very difficult to get under control, and studies are still happening, and we need to kind of hope that a solution pops up very soon. I heard a vaccine sort of formulated by people at Oxford is probably going to be manufactured soon by a major pharmaceutical company. So we just have to wait and watch and hope that some sort of solution comes out of all this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of hope that we have to put ourselves and our lives on actually at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
But what has been the experience with infants and babies and people, because that's your line. You're going to specialize in pediatrics.
Yeah. So the thing is, a lot of people are saying that. So the thing is, infants, of course, are going to be really badly affected because their immune system isn't properly developed yet, and they are definitely at high risk of developing complications. So that is very worrying. You have to that's why a lot of healthcare workers, frontline workers, are not meeting their children. After work, they're isolating themselves. They're not seeing them for a long time because they're definitely more susceptible to complications. And also, I think in children now, there are some studies that COVID presents with very atypical features, like features that some skin findings and some joint findings that may not really be associated with COVID. So it is definitely a challenge. What I know is in the US at the hospital I'm going to work at, a lot of the pediatrics residents are being called to help out with adult medicine as well, because the adult medicine people are dealing with critically ill patients. So that's how it's been affecting this field in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a big challenge, and you're headed into New York, you said,
Yes.
and you're headed into the real hot water, if you ask me.
Exactly. It was the global epicenter of the pandemic, and now with the riots happening, it's just that everything's happening at once. So we just
Yeah.
got to try and keep safe and stay safe.
Now, there was something very interesting you said that in India, you said that the lady doctors do not get their due, and people sort of mistake them to be nurses, who obviously, in their own light, are superheroes, if you ask me.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, but now, and I'm quite sure that you're aware of this fact, that when you go to the US, Canada, or anywhere else, and especially in the graduate medical education specialization, the ratio of females to male is in the favor of females at an outstanding maybe 60-65% females and around 35, if you're lucky, 40% males. In pediatrics, you might have a situation where you're 80% females and you'll be the 20%
Exactly.
male.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why does that happen?
To be honest, that's a very, very good question. It's there have been these trends of certain fields that have had a certain sex ratio all this while, which I don't understand a lot, because if I've noticed that the orthopedics has majority males. Like,
Yep.
sometimes there are no females in orthopedics. In fact, one of my closest friends is doing orthopedics in Hyderabad right now, and she's surrounded by males, and she says sometimes they look down upon her, and which is very sad to know, because people associate a certain field with a certain gender, which I don't really understand. Pediatrics, the thing is with, I don't really know why there are more females, because some people, and oh yeah, actually I read some articles where they obviously said women make better doctors because they're more compassionate, they're more empathetic, they're more patient, they're more understanding. So that also could be a
And
factor, because
they
with
study
kids,
more and they study harder.
exactly, way more dedication, way more patience. So I think, in fact, in pediatrics, you need that compassion and patience. Maybe that's the reason, which, but it is true. Like, especially in pediatrics, there are so many more women
Or
colleagues.
would you say, yeah,
Yeah, I just want to add in because I'm from the same field where the ratio of the gender is my own batch, which I did my graduation from, 30 girls to 5 boys, which is special education,
Oh
which is
wow!
basically education. So
Right.
I think the one I would say I wouldn't say it's a misconception, but it's a cultural thing, I would say, that has been brought up over ages. And when we look at exactly why do we associate a particular field with a particular gender, is because one, there is just how they have been separated since for a long time. Now say education, now specifically primary education. Or in a primary education, they would say, okay, girls are usually the softer side, they're more empathetic, they're more emotional, as what Sharan already said, when dealing with kids. And you automatically, disqualify the men. That okay, we are only going to hire. I think there are, I've seen recruitment ads where it's like, okay, only females can apply. Or like being a personal assistant or working in the front office at the reception. So these are some things where you automatically, when you think of, why do you choose females or why do you choose a male, for example, to be something like working as a civil engineer, maybe. So that's one. Or a mechanical engineer. That's completely
Mechanical, yeah,
that's completely
mechanical
overwhelmed
is the
by
total.
boys.
Yes,
So I think it
yeah,
just goes back to the kind of cultural upbringing that we had, not just as singular person, but then people in general, where we grew up with these people, where we've seen more female teachers teaching us in school, we've seen more female ayahs helping out in where we study, or we've seen more uh, how do I say, male engineers, or we've seen more more male doctors, I guess. I think that's my, just to add on a little bit from my experience.
yeah, okay. Coming back to what someone said, Now, internationally, especially in the medical field, all the specializations and subspecializations and subspecialties are it's heavily tilted in the female ratio. I mean, the female ratio is much higher than the males. And there is perhaps one reason to this, and I want Sharan to put in his perspective on it. Perhaps the reason is the female doctor, the lady doctor, they need to work that extra hard to break that glass ceiling that is always there. So in order to compete with the male doctor, the female doctor has to have that extra edge, that extra qualification, the extra certification to be at par. So a doctor who's just an MBBS or an MD and male will get a better position than a lady doctor who is an MD and a specialist on top of that. What is your take on that?
Honestly, that does, I think, tend to occur because I don't know why, but I feel it's a very, very sad fact and like sad reality that this whole thing still happens. I think that's like a part of a bigger issue. Because again, if you look at other professions as well, like recently a lot of celebrities in Hollywood and Bollywood have also talked about how they got paid less than them, the male counterparts
It is in each and every profession, actually.
Exactly. And honestly, I don't understand why, and I don't really agree with it, of course. Like I just think like it's unnecessary. Because if, like you said, if a male and a female, both of them have the same qualifications, why should you not hire the female? Like everyone should be on equal footing. And I think that's part of a bigger issue which sadly still exists and I don't know enough about, but I just think that it needs to change as much as possible because it's something that really needs to like stop.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a rather difficult follow-up question. What could, I think what could is the right word, what could your generation, yours and Saman's and all the people who are 25 and less, maybe 27 and less, do to make a change in this? We guys failed. Our generation, we totally failed. We screwed it up big time. What is it that you guys are going to do?
I think personally, everyone can like do their bit in terms of slowly raising awareness. Like let's say I would see a female colleague, somebody talking to her and saying, listen, I want a doctor. And then if let's say they saw me and went like, doctor, can you come here? This nurse is not, listening to me. And I would, do my bit and just be like, listen, she's a doctor. And if you have a problem, she is there. She's part of the team, So I think we can like slowly kind of just do our bit in terms of certain small actions and small steps that we take on a daily basis. In terms of a large scale thing, it's going to be tough unless everyone kind of comes together and does it, but slowly kind of spread awareness and bring more attention to this fact rather than continue with it or just like keep quiet about it,
Yeah, because the default is, it's been going on for all this time, so why bother?
Exactly. That's the problem. That's the thing. Like why do you want to let things that have been happen even if they're not right, We can learn so much from what used to happen earlier in the past few years. We can pick up so many good things, but at the same time kind of try and change the things that are really not right.
Yeah. And so you're going to have a different set of challenges when you go to the West. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be quite different, if you ask me. But that's okay. Now, let me hand over to Samad for all his questions on
Right.
movies and mimicry and foodies. So I'll leave all that for Samad to handle this time. Samad, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Sen.
Mr. Sen, actually listening to the conversation, I now have more doubts about the medical field than movies.
Go for it. Yeah, of course. I mean, I think
And the audience,
any ages.
and the audience, if you have any questions you want to ask Sharan, absolutely do put them in the comment section. We'll try to answer each and every one of them. Now, Sharan, the first thing is, of course, ProBano, since it is ProBano's podcast, and we have to cover a bit about the career side of things. Okay, the path
Definitely,
to
of
the
course.
career. So now, could you shed some light on some of the less discovered or the less popular specializations in the field of medical? Like we know the basic thing is obviously pediatrics. That's one. Or being an anesthetician, orthopedics. These are some of the more popular ones that usually people know about. What are some of the specializations that people don't know about, and could you talk more about that and the process to become specialized in that field?
Good question.
Okay, thank you. That's actually a very good question. Because a lot of people, before they enter, they just go like, "Oh, I want to be a surgeon or I want to be a cardiologist." It's certain fields that people don't really not know about. Like once you go into med school, of course, you're going to have exposure to all sorts of fields and then make a decision. There's so many, like, it depends on your interests. Clinical, these are all clinical fields, but then there are non-clinical, paraclinical fields like pathology. In fact, is so important. Which is pathology, microbiology. They're very, very important because yeah. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
1 second. Okay, perfect. So what I was talking about is the preclinical or the paraclinical fields. Like I think pathology is, again, when a patient, let's say, has a tumor or patient has a mass, and if the surgeon removes it and sends it to pathology to kind of analyze it, you can't make a diagnosis without pathology. You can't decide a treatment plan. You can't figure out how the patient's outcome is going to be unless you know what to classify the mass or the tumor or the condition as. So I think pathology is something that definitely needs more recognition, because in India, a lot of us say we want to do clinical stuff, but in the US, I feel that way. In the US, these fields are given so much more appreciation and they're given the value that they really deserve. So that's, I think pathology is one really good field. Microbiology, because again, a patient has an infection, you send it to microbiology to figure out which bacteria is growing or which organism is growing. Like right now for COVID, virologists who are microbiologists are at the forefront of research. In fact, Manipal had a really good virology lab, which when the virus in the Nipah virus in Kerala, when that happened, they basically were one of the first few centers to come up with a diagnosis and to come up with findings related to this. So I think microbiology, pathology, then radiology. Once you're in MBBS, you know it because it's one of the most in-demand fields because of, again, work-life balance, interesting sort of stuff. But a lot of people before joining don't really know that much about it because we know surgery, we know cardiology, we know pediatrics, and we know orthopedics and certain other fields. But I think radiology is also something nice to consider, again, based on your preferences. And another thing which I found quite interesting is forensic medicine. So basically, it's sort of like, I feel, investigative work to figure out the cause of death in a patient. So you look at each and every organ, you look at each and every sort of blood vessel and try and figure out how the patient sort of passed away. So I think those are some of the fields that I feel are really like interesting and should sort of be more mainstream.
Could you just to add on to my previous question, could you speak more about the paramedical field? And of course, I want to add in nurses in that as well. Could you talk more about that field as a career?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. So if you're talking about, so when I say paraclinical, I mean like allied health sciences, like your BPT, bachelor's in physiotherapy, bachelor's in occupational therapy, speech therapy, and of course nursing, dental, pharmacy, all those sort of fields, which I feel really they're so essential to like the whole healthcare system, because again, and physiotherapy, occupational therapy is so important because you have patients who need to recover post-operatively. You're going to need physio, like especially in orthopedics, neurosurgery. You're going to need physical therapy. You're going to need people to help you sort of recover, speech therapists, stuff like that. So I feel those are very, very important. And in terms of even the dental field, it's a good field if it's interesting. You got a good work-life balance as well. In addition to your clinical duties, and I've already talked about nurses and how amazing they are. So that's my little bit sort of on. And I think in India we need to kind of appreciate these fields more than we do, and kind of sort of not just be like MBBS, MBBS, MBBS. It needs to also that you need to talk about other sort of aspects of the healthcare profession.
Right, fantastic. And to, I don't know, this could act as a follow-up question, and it comes from Aditya, who was, what options does a student from a rural area have in medical science apart from paramedical courses or nursing? Can they afford an MBBS degree? And for the sake of the argument, we'll stick to India. I mean, most of our students are from India, from rural backgrounds, so I guess...
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, when it comes to India, I feel like government colleges are very affordable. They barely have any fees, which is amazing, because again, like you said, MBBS should not just be restricted to those who can afford it. I think that's the thing with private colleges, because some fees are affordable, some fees are high. And the thing is, of course, it will take a lot of preparation in terms of your entrance exam, your state entrances, your NEET, your All India entrance exams to get into a government college, because you need higher ranks, there are reservations. So I feel government colleges are a really good option for MBBS and even specialization later, because you get an amazing range of clinical exposure, as well as if there's an issue with fees and affordability, you do end up paying much less.
Great. And just to add on a statistic, is based on my research for 2019 admissions at AIIMS, Delhi, is you pay approximately, of course, if you get in, if you clear all the necessary requirements, and you spend anywhere between 8,000 to 8,500. Of course, that number might have changed because of, it was 2019 data, but that's 5.5 years, 8,500. There you go. It's absolutely affordable, I feel.
Amazing. It's very, very affordable. In fact, like the thing is, for me, being from Dubai, I had access to the NRI quota for Manipal, but that was also crazy expensive. That was definitely something I didn't want to consider, because the fees for 5.5 years were 1 crore. I freaked out. I was like, no, I'm going to study for the entrance exam. I'm going to just sort of bury myself in books and try and get in through merit, which thankfully happened. But even then, government colleges are definitely way more affordable.
On this, I just want to say something, Samant and Sharan. I want to ask Sharan a question. It's a trend, and it's something that is there in India and elsewhere as well, that 95% of the teaching colleges are all government sectors. They're all owned by the government. Even in the US, it's the university medical colleges that actually teach. Mm-hmm. You just have a few, very, very few, who actually get into the medical teaching part of it. Why is that? In India, you have perhaps Manipal and a couple more here and there, but by and large, 95% or more are government colleges that hand out medical training and medical teaching. Why?
I'm actually not too sure in the sense of why there are more government institutions. I also think because initially AIIMS was set up a long time ago, and I think that's autonomous though. But then I think recently private universities have started coming up, like in engineering, of course, there are way more private colleges, but in medical, that's a very good question, but I'm honestly not sure as to why this proportion is sort of still exists.
Can I just add on, Mr. Sen? If I can, sure. Of course, I have a generic answer, not medical specific. I don't have knowledge about that. But there's just a citizen answering, I guess, I don't know. So basically, if you have a government-run college or a state-run college, sorry, the government has a better overview of everything that's happening at the ground level. But then if you privatize that, there's scope for exploitation in terms of finances. There's exploitation in terms of the culture of the college. And then they opens up, if you, and of course college, and nowadays I think there's a regulation going on as well, that autonomy should be given to educational institutes to run as they see fit, because schools are people are different based on the area that they are living in. So I guess it opens up the Pandora's box to all sort of complications, where you like all these cultural problems, or the culture of the college or the place that is in, or the scope for corruption, be it finances or human rights. So I think that opens up. I think that's my take on that.
Because, especially in the medical field, we have a situation in India where I would say around 35 to 40% of the doctors migrate abroad. They go to the UK or they go to the US. And it's a well-known fact that 35% of all UK doctors are from India, 35% of all US doctors are from India. And in India, we don't have doctors for the population. There is definitely something wrong somewhere. So what
I think that is also, and actually to add on to the fact that you said a lot of the doctors in the US are Indian, a new thing that actually popped up, a trivia that I read, was the most common surname for a doctor in the US is Patel.
There you go.
So that was super interesting. And I was like, okay, wow. So in the sense, India, the thing is, yeah, maybe that whole thing about not being enough doctors for the number of patients applies. But the thing is, in terms of slots and in terms of seats for training for MBBS, for your MD or MS, those are very few. Because, it's a very, again, this is another big topic of discussion, because there are a lot of people who want to do medicine, who want to do a certain specialty, who want to get a seat, but then your options are limited. There are very few seats as compared to the number of applicants.
Yeah, so there is a capacity bottleneck. And since all the teaching is done in the government medical colleges or the government hospitals, it is up to the government to increase the capacity and to stop the greatest export that India has, which is exporting doctors and engineers to the Western world. I think we are the best in the world in that. So I think we
but
have
also
to...
the thing is, yeah,
you're saying
private colleges. No, the thing is, private medical colleges, they also run teaching hospitals, because like Kasturba Hospital, Manipal was a very good teaching hospital. So that way, all the hospitals associated with medical colleges, private or government, are teaching. But the thing is, like you said, a lot of people are going abroad, but that's, again, a lot of scope for discussion, in the sense that there's not, there have been a lot of debates as to why doctors do not want to stay on in India. That's another huge discussion as to why they probably feel they want to go abroad. Everyone, there's so many different points of view. So that's another big discussion.
And we don't have too much time for the very big discussion. So
Yes.
someone wrap it up.
Right. Let's see. So of course, since all three of us, Mr. Sen, Sharan and I, all three of us are movie aficionados, if I can say that.
Yes.
Sharan, I have to ask you, and Mr. Sen, this goes to you as well. What is your favorite medical-based movie or TV show? And why?
Mr. Sen can go ahead. Mr. Sen, you go first.
No, I don't have any like that. I don't have one which is, based on medical or, stuff like that. No.
Okay.
But
so mine, definitely.
If it had to be, now you guys are going to kill me for this, okay?
I think I may know, yeah.
It's got to be Doctor Strange.
Fair enough. Fair enough. He is a neurosurgeon. He
Yeah.
was a neurosurgeon. Okay. Is someone still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think Mr. Sen, that goes. I mean, if you,
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah.
Sen, I'm not going to question your choice of movie, but then I guess maybe Doctor Strange gets into the more paradimensional and the magic side of movies.
No, no. What it
Yeah.
does get into is not magic. It gets into healing. Doctors
Right.
don't heal. Doctors treat a disease. They don't heal the body.
Right, beautifully said.
And we have a doctor here. We can ask him.
That's the thing. Like the age-old concept of doctors being healers is in the sense that we can, like you said, we treat. A lot of people say they treat conditions, but we ultimately our goal is to like treat the patient and heal through actions other than conventional, like straightforward treatment. Like healing in the broad concept is, like you said, we can't directly like do something and like magically repair an organ. Like we can fix it and we can let the body heal through interventions, but the concept of doctors being healers is a very old concept. My favorite show is definitely the thing is, it's not very medically accurate. It's not accurate at depicting the doctors' lives for sure, but Grey's Anatomy
Yeah, and that's a
is
very popular one.
actually it's my guilty pleasure because it's a very good drama. The emotional aspect of it is really nice. It's not very accurate in terms of how they depict doctors in the US at hospitals. It's obviously over the top, but it's a favorite of mine just because of the drama and the storyline and the emotions. It's definitely one thing that I really love. A lot of people love House. I like House MD because each episode has a different case and it's very fascinating. A lot of us learned so much from it, but I would probably say Grey's Anatomy.
I think House MD dives more into the comedy side of things, and of course I didn't watch the entire series. I watched the clips, and based on the comments I read from people who did watch the entire thing, it's more to do with the Hollywood and the over dramatization or taking it over the top for the reasons of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, actually, movies are that, aren't they? They actually
That's true.
dramatize some idea so that it's
Yeah.
attractive to the audience.
But that's the thing, right? Something like I wanted to add about medical shows. So if you look at 3 different medical shows, they all have such different approaches to medicine. Grey's Anatomy deals with the human aspect of it and the emotions, relationships, people's struggles. Scrubs is very funny. Scrubs is very wacky. It just shows how they have fun and they're childish, but it's a lot of fun because again, it's over the top in terms of comedy. House is over the top in the sense that it's made to seem like suspenseful, and the cases are very, very rare. You don't see these cases regularly. So they're all very different approaches to medicine.
But Scrubs is it's very close to a surgeon's room or, in a hospital. They literally do that. They have fun. You will be amazed at the type of fun they have. When all the surgeons get together in between operations, after an operation or whatever, you'll be amazed. It's very close to what Scrubs does.
And of course, the recent one in India would be Kabir Singh or Arjun Reddy, depending on where you're from. Of course, we cannot keep talking about that for other reasons. But Sharan, before we leave you, I want to maybe get back to a serious, hard-hitting question. With that, I want to ask you, since you said you worked in the urban setting, you also been in the rural setting. Now, what is the difference in the mindset and the awareness of people in both the backgrounds? And if there is a lacking of awareness and a backward mindset in either of the settings, how do we challenge that and how do we change that?
Again, that's a very relevant question, and if I have to like skim over the surface because of lack of time, it's definitely in the rural setting. The mindset is different. But I was in Karnataka and around Manipal, where people, in fact, they were very good in terms of their mindset. Like I've heard from some friends in other states at government hospitals when the mother gave birth to a baby girl, they would like start crying and the family would not be happy. So I was lucky that way that in Karnataka, I didn't really deal with such like, patients who were unaware or ignorant. But I just feel, yes, in the rural setting, there is that lack of awareness just because they haven't been educated enough, because they didn't have the means to learn. Like one of my friends was telling me about a case that she recently saw wherein the mother did not know about like getting a lot of care while she was pregnant. She found out late. It was a very sad case, but that's just something that we need to try and like raise awareness on and bring that issue up, because it, even if they're unaware or ignorant, even if they lack basic sort of understanding of certain things, it's just because there was no way for them to be educated regarding these issues in rural areas. It's there, but it's not their fault. And also, I guess there are exceptions. Even in urban areas, there are some people who still have that mentality and mindset, regardless of education. So that's a big gap.
There is one more thing in the urban, and someone, sorry about that. I want to just ask you about a concept called doctor shopping.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's what happens. Like you said, so in rural settings, they come to the doctor because there's just maybe one in their area, and they just listen and they do whatever that doctor says. But like you said, in the urban area, because there's more access to so many more facilities, so many private hospitals, so many clinics, that some people just feel like no, they want to like go for like a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, which is crazy, and then they end up getting confused. So I just think that there are ways, like, okay, yes, if you go to one doctor and you don't really like the way he's approaching you, that's fine. But in the sense of, and wanting a second opinion is not wrong if you want to absolutely be sure about certain things, but also sort of trusting someone who's capable, someone who's experienced is important.
Yeah, I think it's all about faith. It's all about good faith. That was there. Someone.
Yeah, I guess there's one question from Rahul Konapur. Maybe end on a positive and fun, happy note. I guess Rahul Konapur asks, greeting from a fellow Manipalite. What is your best memory about Manipal?
Oh my God. When you said Rahul Konapur, it actually sounded very familiar. And now you said Manipal. I think he was in MCOPS. I think he was in the pharmacy course. I'm not sure. Best memory would probably be, okay, we did this. This is one of my favorite things in Manipal to do was, there was this neighboring town called Kundapur, which was in 45 minutes to an hour away. And they had this place called Shetty Lunch Home, which had the best chicken ghee roast ever. It was so tasty. We used to order it. We had to order it 1.5 hours in advance. Like we used to call the restaurant, say 1 chicken ghee roast or 2 chicken ghee roast, and then drive there or take the bus or whatever, and then eat there and come back. So that was something I loved.
Wow.
And also like a lot of road trips that we did in Manipal were really fun.
That's commitment for a chicken ghee roast. I like that.
Yep.
I guess everybody can understand that.
Really good. It was really good.
I can see your mouth watering. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to cook chicken ghee roast last week at home. It turned out pretty good, but that was just too good.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
Great.
That would be it.
Yeah. So guys, thank you so much firstly to Mr. Sen, and of course thank you to all the audience members for your comments. I've been reading them. Of course, thank you for watching. Thank you, Rahul. That was a good note. And Shetty Lunch Home is the best. Rahul Khunapur's comment.
Amazing. Yes.
Great. So Sharan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Thank you for coming. It was a wonderful discussion, going back and forth regarding medical and then the careers, the movie side of things. It was wonderful talking to you about this. And guys, if you want a 2.0, if you want a second episode with Sharan, do type 2.0 in the chat, and we'll absolutely try to get him back as soon as possible.
The only problem will be he'll be 10.5 hours away.
Exactly. Oh yeah, but that we'll figure it out. But thank you so much, Mr. Sen and Samant. Thank you, ProBano, for this. This was
Thank
fun.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming to our podcast. So guys, take care, stay safe, wash your hands, like and follow our Facebook
Thank
page,
you
and
so
turn on post notifications to get notified when you do go live, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch our live streams on entrepreneurship. And we'll see you tomorrow with another guest at same time, 6 p.m. Take care now. Bye bye. See you.
Thank you. Bye.